I'm not going to say much about this slide except to say that it is for your reference. So G-Power is a program that is available for you to calculate power, but I would say that it is of limited usefulness. And so a lot of you have seen, if I'm a grader, on your papers for your 2YPs, and you say that you checked power through G-Power. Typically, your analysis that you're trying to run is more complicated than G-Power will give information for. So long story short, G-Power is of limited usefulness. It's only good for calculating power for simple t-tests, ANOVAs, and simple linear regression techniques and methods. It's not so helpful for mediation analyses, for multiple moderated regression. So if you have an interaction you're looking at or moderation, it's not good for that. It's not good for mediated moderation, which a lot of you are doing, or moderated mediation. I use those interchangeably, by the way. Learn more about that later. But for moderated mediation, G-Power isn't helpful. And several other, like multi-level modeling, it's certainly not useful for that at all. So it's not useful for anything really that you're doing, most of you are doing your second year projects on. So what is more useful is to look in the literature at researchers, when they're looking at power, they'll do Monte Carlo simulations, and those are for the complicated techniques that you're using in your 2YPs and probably in your dissertations later as well. So I'll give you some more resources on this in the future for multi-level modeling for interactions in that. There's a specific paper that I look at. I think it's by John Matthew, and I forgot the other author, but it's extremely complicated what they did with the simulations. They just do lots of data resampling. It's a long story, but they do lots of data resampling, and they set the population to certain parameters, and then they sample and resample from that, and then they get like an overall estimation of what happened, and then they'll give you the sample size you need for to get power at 0.80 or 0.85 or whatever you need your power to be. So what I would say is that currently, because of the complicated computing techniques that we have, calculating power is not easy, and so I, as a researcher, almost fully rely on these simulation studies. I think Fritz and McKinnon is one that I rely on for mediation, and so I will show you that one later as well. And so those are the ones you want to cite, not G-Power. I wouldn't even go to G-Power for pretty much anything. The only thing that it might be helpful for is if you don't find a significant difference for a t-test or an ANOVA that you're running, maybe an intervention where you have two groups and the means don't differ, and so you want to know post hoc what your power was, or even a priori before you conduct the study, how many participants you'll need for those groups. So if it's a simple study like that, then G-Power will be very helpful. I'm not going to go over it in this class too much because, but I'll give you the references here, the resources that you can use. It has a very helpful user's manual, and there are also tutorials on YouTube for just about any analysis in G-Power that you need. So you can watch somebody click through the menu and talk about how to use G-Power for those situations. So hopefully that's helpful. This slide is again just for reference.